from CBS Sports, the U.S. Open Tennis Championships.
The 1989 U.S. Open saw the end of an era as America's grande dame of tennis, 34-year-old Chris Evert, hung up her racket and said goodbye to a misty-eyed standing ovation, but not before thrilling the crowd with one of the best matches of her career. And we relived an era in men's tennis as the old man, Jimmy Connors, once again took center stage in the glamour match of the tournament and put on a show that is destined to become one of the legendary matches in U.S. Open history. But right behind the old man was a band of young American gunslingers who showed they can challenge the biggest names in tennis and serve notice that the future of American tennis is bright indeed, as they left a string of bodies along the trail of upsets leading to the men's U.S. Open Championship.
New York, New York, where anything is possible and anyone can ride their talents to the top of the world. Where for more than a century, the great lady in the harbor has symbolized that no dream is too lofty. New York, New York, where no luxury is unattainable if you have the heart of a lion and the guts of a street fighter. A suitable home to the toughest tournament in tennis, the United States Open.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Ryan. Welcome to the CBS Sports 1989 U.S. Open home video. In the next hour, you'll see the decisive final matches of the men's and women's championships, and we'll look back over some of the most exciting moments in the toughest tournament in tennis as we reprise the career of Chris Evert in her farewell event. We'll see Jimmy Connors, the grand old man of tennis, give the fans and the umpires their money's worth. And we'll meet the young Americans who showed the world that the rumored death of American tennis is, as Mark Twain said, greatly exaggerated. Working with us on this tape, the men and women who called the matches so well during the 2 weeks of the Open.
Good afternoon. I'm Pat Summerall here with our CBS tennis analyst, Tony Trabert.
Working with Tony and Pat, our reporter in the field, Leslie Visser, who is joined by my studio co-host, Mary Carrillo, who also helped to call the play. The upsets began on morning number 3. John McEnroe was scheduled to sail past unknown, unheralded Paul Haarhuis of the Netherlands.
Let's look at him. Here's a young man who has been going to college at Florida State University after starting at tiny Armstrong State in Georgia and transferring over, and since that time, he has obviously picked up his game. McEnroe knew he was in trouble in the first set, and after splitting the first 2 sets, now we're in the 3rd set here. McEnroe serving with Haarhuis up at 4-1. Beautiful topspin lob.
It's one of those days, McEnroe said, you wish you never have in your whole career.
Serving now for the 3rd set, Paul Haarhuis from the Netherlands.
This guy's tough. He's a big, strong, powerful guy who can hit out on everything. And as we've all seen, McEnroe and Tatum O'Neal, for that matter as well, he doesn't like pace.
It's a problem for him tonight. First game of the 4th set. Good positioning by Haarhuis. Knocks off another volley winner. And an obviously bothered McEnroe, despite hitting that winner, just couldn't keep his head in.
Who called that?
Ball was out. Point before.
Who called it?
Linesperson.
You got to be kidding me. What was that? I didn't hear any call, and it was in besides.
I never relaxed through the whole match, McEnroe said. I don't know why.
And suddenly, the upstart qualifier, Paul Haarhuis, found himself serving for the match.
I just didn't feel like I was totally there. I just wasn't all there. I don't have an explanation. I tried to prepare as best as I could. It's obviously, I don't need to say how big a tournament it is, but I just didn't, I don't know, I just couldn't get going. Couldn't get into it.
That was a remarkable victory, Paul, the biggest upset since Chang beat Lendl at the French. What made you think you could beat McEnroe?
Well, I won the first set, and I was playing very well. And after I won the first set, I told myself, you know, if you win one set, you can win another one and you can win three. You just have to play well and keep playing well.
As the veteran McEnroe fell to the man quickly dubbed the best little Haarhuis in tennis, the young Americans began to assert themselves, eventually claiming half the berths in the round of 16. The show began as 18-year-old Pete Sampras of Rancho Palos Verdes, California, took center court against defending champion Mats Wilander.
It was after midnight with Sampras up 5-4 in the fifth, and Murray and I were calling it live.
Another ace for Sampras.
Advantage Sampras.
What a show. The day of upsets looks like it's going to continue the way this young guy is going. John McEnroe upset earlier today by Paul Haarhuis of the Netherlands. Now Pete Sampras against the defending champion. Well, even Sampras has to grin about that one. I think that might have been a little apple in the throat there.
Oh, major gaggage. What can you expect this kid? He's a little kid. He's trying to beat the defending champion.
Quiet, please.
It's his ninth double fault. Third deuce.
Great return from Wilander. Another break point.
Did he get it?
Ball was out.
He pulled it wide. He pulled it wide. Fourth deuce. Oh boy, that was a makeable forehand from Wilander.
He just agreed with you.
Those are the points he didn't make. He didn't miss last year.
Great serve. Yet another ace from Sampras. What a game. Another match point.
Quiet, please.
That's wide, and Pete Sampras wins it.
5-7, 6-3, 1-6, 6-1, 6-4.
What a moment. What a night. 18-year-old Pete Sampras from Rancho Palos Verdes, California, into the third round with an upset over the defending champion, Mats Wilander. Well, now earlier, yet another American, Derek Ristanu. You may remember him from a quarterfinal a year ago. He upset Tim Mayotte en route to the quarterfinals. Today, against Boris Becker, he nearly pulled off a tremendous upset. Now, this came after Ristanu was up 6-1. Boris Becker complained about that call that could have evened the match at a set apiece.
That one, he said, Becker, that very bad call cost him the second set. Derek Ristanu from California played exactly as well as Paul Haarhuis did. He was aggressive from everywhere. He served very, very well.
Quiet, please.
High kicking shots into Becker that he just couldn't attack.
Ristanu won that tiebreak in the second set. We're here in the third. Some tremendous shot making by both players here. Becker moving ahead 3-2 in the third set. Now Becker at 4-3. And Becker won the third set 6-3. battling back from 2 sets down.
Yeah, but battling as well was Derek Rostano. In this game, he had 6 break points against him, and he still hung tough.
That makes it 4-all. They're in the 4th set. Now they're at 5-all.
At this point, Becker said of himself, the only thing I had going well today was spirit.
So Rostano was serving for the match. But the Wimbledon champion, again on the big points, coming up big. Into the 5th set it goes. Becker down the line, breaks Rostano in the first game.
Rostano said he played solid at the beginning of the 5th set. I didn't. That's where I lost the match.
Rostano back in red, and the match point goes to Boris Becker. The champion showed his quality, 6-3 in the 5th.
I thought I should have had that. I thought I really had, serving forward, first serve, and a little bad luck hit me, and I think I played well. He just came out with a big shot right when he needed it. That's what makes him, I guess, top 2 in the world.
If I could choose, I would win every match, love, love, and love. But, these days you can't choose, and I take, any match I get. I was lucky to survive today, and let's see what the next day brings.
Meanwhile, Michael Chang was on cruise control in the bracket featuring Lendl, Edberg, Connors, and Agassi. Chang, the 17-year-old French Open champion from Placentia, California, had a 4th-round meeting and a Wimbledon rematch with 9th seed Tim Mayotte of Bradenton, Florida.
Here in the 1st set, tied at a game apiece with Chang serving.
Chang really was in control of that 1st set. In fact, he was up 5-2, but at 5-3, he had 3 unforced errors, he said, and that's really what got him in trouble.
Mayotte now serving with Chang leading at 5-4. That brought it to 5-all, and the net play of Mayotte was starting to take effect. Mayotte up now 6-5 in the 1st set, serving.
That was on a set point. Really the best point of the whole match.
Mayotte still at 6-5 and serving.
And that's just not good enough. You can see Chang was willing to dig, but Mayotte was still climbed all over him.
Into the 3rd set now. Chang at 5-1 here as he finally got it going, wound up winning that set 6-1, but he was still down 2 sets to 1. His family looked on with considerable concern, and Mayotte simply did not wilt. Instead, he picked up his game, again coming to the net and completely shutting down the passing lanes for Michael Chang. And after the victory, Tim Mayotte had some bold predictions for Mary Carrillo.
You could possibly be playing Ivan Lendl. He's in your quarter. The way you played now, can that beat Lendl?
I think so. I'm coming, and I'm coming, and I'm coming, and I'm volleying as well as I ever have and moving well at the net, so I'm ready.
But Ivan Lendl would prove more ready, ousting Mayotte in straight sets. Meanwhile, Pete Sampras's night of stardom faded in the midday sun. He lost in the next round to 11th seed Jay Berger of Plantation, Florida. Meanwhile, Detroit's Aaron Krickstein had advanced to a quarterfinal meeting with his fellow American.
And the number 14 seed, Krickstein, not really the favorite against Berger, who's had such a hot summer, played awfully well in this tournament. And Berger's up 3-2 here in the 1st set.
Jay played really well in this 1st set. He controlled the baseline and the points at net. Unfortunately for Berger, Krickstein got tougher in the 2nd. Berger was a little more tentative from the backcourt, made mistakes, and Krickstein became the aggressor in set 2.
Well, they're all even, a set apiece, and into the 3rd set. Berger serving. by Krickstein. Look at this. Great save by Berger. That's a fine shot from Krickstein. But then suddenly, in the 6th game of this set, Berger cramped up. Now, Berger could not take a rest. You're not allowed to do that with just cramps. It must be an injury. You cannot take an injury timeout. So therefore, he had to keep playing, hoping to give the trainer time to come out, hoping that somehow that cramp would go away, enabling him to continue. Now, the crowd, most of them didn't understand what was happening. He had to keep the ball in play. Krickstein was booed because naturally he had to keep playing. Finally, Jay Berger had had enough and had to retire. A very disappointing finish for a young man who had had such a great tournament. Afterwards, we talked with them both.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. Obviously, it's not a way you want to get into the semifinals of the U.S. Open, but then again, I've had some bad luck over my career, so I'll take anything I can get at this point.
I was just so anxious to play in the quarterfinals and to play well, and I think I played exceptionally well. I think I was playing great tennis out there, but my heart never relaxed on the court, and I was just using too much energy.
The performance of the young American men was overshadowed only by the near superhuman effort of former champion and perennial favorite, 37-year-old Jimmy Connors. The incredible old man overcame cramps, charley horses, dehydration, nausea, and dizziness to battle his way into the quarterfinals in the glamour match of the tournament. It was a nightmare for Stefan Edberg out there against Jimmy Connors. Let's take a look at the action. Connors up 4-2 in the first set. He got the jump on Edberg, and he never let him up. Now, we know, Mary, that Edberg is always unhappy at nighttime on center court. Who can forget that match against Krickstein in the wind and trash, and he just had himself another tough night.
That was the last time Edberg played on this court, and you're right. He didn't have any good memories. Connors hasn't played. He's played 3 night matches now out there. Every one of his matches has been on the stadium. And as Boris Becker says of Jimmy Connors, he's 10 times tougher at the Open than anywhere else.
Well, after losing the first game of the second set, Connors was a very unhappy guy. And he let his emotions get the best of him.
That's an audible one, not what I said there. Want me to spell it for you? Sorry? Mr. Connors, the suggestion I should be That's not.
God give it.
Give him a game penalty.
That followed a warning and a point penalty against Connors. It resulted ultimately in $2,250 in fines. But it bothered Connors not a whit.
Not only did Connors play as well as ever, but Edberg never caught fire. He didn't serve well, he didn't volley well, and his backhand, which is normally the backbone of his backcourt game, wasn't anywhere in sight tonight.
So
it was a nightmare for Edberg, Tim.
Despite the 2-game deficit right at the beginning of the set, with plays like this, Connors not only pulled even, but took the lead and went on to win the set with brilliant play like that. Now in the third, Jimmy Connors up 3-1. Edberg serving here. And if you wonder about the old legs, there's a sample of how they still work. Afterwards, we spoke to both players, Edberg and Connors.
Didn't have anything working for me. I couldn't serve and I couldn't rally from the back of the court, and I tried different things, but they didn't work out.
So the old man of the Open, Jimmy Connors, showed again he's not ready to push up posies, as we see in this close-up portrait by Leslie Visser.
I don't know if I'm doing anything extra special. I'm 37. I don't worry about the numbers.
The numbers may tell you that Jimmy Connors should have been too old to knock off Stefan Edberg. In this case, the numbers didn't add up.
Well, you know, they expect people to be dead when you're 37, so to be playing tennis is unbelievable.
I know when I'm 37, I'm not gonna be doing what he's doing.
He's an animal, and the fans here tend to be animals too.
If the youngsters can mold their play or attitude on Jimmy Connors, they could do a lot worse.
Some people feel he might go overboard, but, you know, that's the way he is.
The way he is the way he was. A 5-time champion of the U.S. Open and still a showman. Whether you love him or hate him, there seems to be no end to the legend of the street-fighting man.
It's over, I'll tell you if it's a fairy tale or not. But right now, it's just, I'm still in the tournament, I'm still taking care of my business, and if I play like I'm playing, whatever happens, happens, and that'd be good enough.
By destroying Stefan Edberg, Connors set the stage for the quarterfinal rematch that everyone had hoped for. Connors Agassi 2. Once again, Jimmy Connors took center stage in the theater he loved so well, in a match destined to become one of the legends of the U.S. Open. Set 1, game 2. Agassi is up 1-love and serving. Now here's a sample of some of the shots that he threw at Jimmy today coming up. From the baseline, a perfectly executed drop shot, low percentage, but right on the money. And he rolled to a 5-1 lead in the first set and really had his way, Mary.
He did. He played beautifully. You could tell that he was very concentrated, really swinging through the ball, driving it all over the court. And in this first set, it seemed like he really wanted to knock Connors off the court.
Well, and at the end of that set, it appeared he'd roll in 3, as Coach Nick Bollettieri real happy with it. Now game 1, Agassi serving, set 2. Connors broke serve in this game. Coming to the net, makes the fine winning volley. Moved ahead 2-1 here, and then suddenly the very high temperatures, muggy weather, perhaps the hottest day of the Open, started to take their toll on Connors.
I need to see Mr. Farrar. Nothing concerning you. I need to see him and talk to him for 1 second.
Connors was hoping to see the trainer at that point. He asked for the tournament referee to come out. The Grand Prix supervisor, Ken Farrar. He was suffering from heat exhaustion. Unable to take any kind of a timeout, of course. He had to keep playing here, but he could ask for the trainer, and he had done so.
Right. It was, we had just seen him cramp a couple of days ago. And, of course, at this point, everyone was worried about Connors' physical condition. He looked awful.
And yet he was up 4-1 in this second set. Paddy Connors looked on with concern, but Andre Agassi certainly had to be distracted, if nothing else, by this, because Connors looked like he might not finish, and yet here he was leading the set. Now 5-4 in the second set. Agassi apparently wanting Connors to play a lot of balls, the older legs, and certainly in the condition that he appeared to be in, you would think that Agassi would want to make him play these long points. But Connors gamely coming forward here, knocks out that winner, and takes the set. So they're a set apiece.
Now here's where things I think went way wrong and should never have happened. Agassi started slicing returns where he had been coming over him. He started playing goofy shots. I mean, it looked like Connors was as game as he always is, but it really looked like Agassi was letting him right back in there. Agassi said afterwards, I just think he raised his game a lot. Connors said that wasn't true. Connors himself said, I didn't do anything special. He did it for me. And I think that's true.
A 6-love third set for Jimmy Connors.
And the way Agassi had played in that first set, only 5 unforced errors. In the next couple of sets here, he had more than 3 times as many.
Well, he quickly moved into a 5-2 lead here in the fourth set with shots like that down the line. Connors gamely hanging in there. Now, the weather conditions had improved. You see the shadows over the court. Temperature was down. A little breeze was up. Connors had come around from the heat exhaustion.
Mid-range Agassi.
Still Agassi, 6-3. Into the 5th set. And a quick 1-love lead for Andre Agassi serving in the second game. Another drop shot from the baseline, perfectly executed. And suddenly it's 5-2, and it looks like Agassi is just going to roll through this final set to victory. As usual, Jimmy Connors had other ideas. The crowd behind him, he raised his game again.
It's at a point like this when you're up against Connors, you can't take anything for granted.
Give this guy a chance to choke!
Give this guy a chance to choke.
Well, there's Andre Agassi, up 5-3, but Connors serving here.
It's great that Agassi was able to tough this out. Because Connors was all over the place.
The 5-4. Now Agassi serving for the match. But again, Connors hanging in. The audience absolutely enthralled, but Agassi at match point, 40-30. The younger man who beat Connors in straight sets a year ago, going 5 in whatever fashion, has the old master at his mercy. Yet another of those drop shots from the baseline, long from Connors, and Andre Agassi advanced to the semifinal in a dramatic effort on the stadium court. Jimmy Connors with a farewell to the crowd, and afterwards we spoke with both players. Jimmy, I described it earlier as great tennis theater out there, and you thrive on that. You told the press that. You love that crowd. You like to be on that stage. Did you think that was an edge that you carried out there today?
It was, it could have been a very big edge in the fifth if I would have started one game sooner than I did of getting excited and playing the kind of tennis that I did at the end. I let the fifth go a little bit too long. 4-love is a tough hill to climb, and even though I had an opportunity still to come back and tie it up in the fifth, I let it go too long, but the crowd was terrific. They really were. I mean, they got into it. They saw the best tennis that I had to give them on the day, and for me to play like that and for them to respond to me still after all these years as they did out there, it's no secret. I love playing here, and because of them.
I was almost in just admiring his will, when he got down there, especially in the fifth. And that's kind of how I felt then. But now, heck, it means it's really starting to hit me. It probably won't for a little while, but just how tough it was and how, and about feeling good about myself and stuff. I think that all is going to come after I kind of, calm down emotionally a little bit.
A similar story was unfolding in the women's draw. 6-time U.S. Open champion Christine Marie Evert was making her farewell appearance in the tournament that catapulted her to prominence 17 years ago. As the Open began, her retirement was the cover story on Sports Illustrated, and no one gave her a real chance, including Chris. But a funny thing happened on Evert's way to an early and graceful demise. The champion in her refused to go quietly, and she stunned the tournament by breaking through to the quarterfinals with one of the strongest performances of her career.
Many expected Evert to lose to 15-year-old Monica Seles, but instead, Chris conducted a center court clinic, allowing the youngster only 2 games in the match and completely dominating the afternoon. Monica's strategy of engaging in long rallies like that one failed to break Chris's concentration. She simply outlasted the teenage sensation. And our Mary Carello at courtside asked an ebullient Evert about the match she had dreaded.
And usually when I go out and I'm really dreading a match, I'm just a nervous wreck. And today I just felt really calm, and I think the pressure was off me because I think a lot of people expected me to lose to Monica.
Is it sort of like when you got Billie Jean King in 1971 in the semis of the Open? Did you do that to her? Did she feel it from you?
I just, I knew that I had to play better than I have been, and I've been playing tentative all week, and I knew she hits the ball hard, and that actually helped me to be more alert, and I knew I had to play tough, and I just was amazed. I concentrated like I was 17 years old again, and it amazed me more than anybody, I think.
But the amazing show could not go on forever, and 2 days later, the sun finally set on the Chris Evert era.
It's been an emotional day for tennis fans here.
And it's not as though she didn't warn us, Tim, and we all knew that this was her last U.S. Open. We all knew how improbable it would be for her to put her name on this list one more time. And yet now that it's over, it's very hard to take.
It is indeed. Her final opponent was the number 5 seed from Houston, Zina Garrison, who had been playing very impressively. And Mary Chris appeared tight and tentative in the first 2 games of the match, and yet found herself leading here 4-2 in the first set.
Well, Zina had donated a bunch of games early on, and that's why Chris was made to feel that she hadn't really earned this lead.
And so there was Evert at 5-2.
2 breaks for Chris. She said, I really squandered that lead. Zina, who's a very tough come-from-behind player, was to say afterwards that being down that far actually relaxed her.
Then all kinds of bad things started to happen for Chris. 5 double faults in the first set. Now the second set tied at 1. Evert serving. One of the best points of the entire match, but it was Garrison who was waiting for the easy winner. The look on Chris's face, I think, tells it all here.
Yeah,
Zina had pulled away to a 5-2 lead.
She was so tough. There was still one last ray of hope people were feeling for Chris.
And a dandy cross-court winner there. But a match point now for Garrison, and the end seemed inevitable. And so Zina Garrison had ended the U.S. Open career of Chris Evert on center court. Asking your feelings seems almost a cliche, but I suppose everybody right now really wants to know that.
Well, I'm going to hide them. I'm pretty upset. I'm a little shocked at the match, to tell you the truth. I was up 5-2 and just let it slip away. And then Zina, as soon as she got into the match, just started playing some of her best tennis, and it slipped away from me. And I keep thinking about that, and I get really, I'm pretty mad at myself because of that.
That's exactly the reason why you are retiring, isn't it? That a match like that can happen after a match like this.
Yeah. I thought about that once on the court when she made an incredible get, and I thought, oh, great, this is like meant to be, I guess,
The sad fact is that it's over, and you've had all kinds of tributes. What are your thoughts about all of that? What have you got to say at this point?
Well, it's, I hope that, what's going to happen in 6 months? Are people still going to talk to me? I mean, it's like, I think all this attention for these 2 weeks and this whole year, knowing it was going to be my last year, and Wimbledon, they were great to me, and it's such a high, and whenever there's a high, there's a low, and it'll be interesting to see how I react when I go home and everything's calmed down and I'm no longer in contention for the #1 spot, and I'm no longer going to play Grand Slam tournaments. It'll be interesting to see how I adjust to it.
Let us show you something we hope you'll take with you as a memory.
My career really started here. I think I've had a lot of success here and excellent memories of Forest Hills and Flushing Meadow.
At 16, she was the princess of center court, soon to become the queen.
Perfection is the word which sums her up in almost everything she's trying to do on and off the court. It's an extraordinary record, and she has been such a marvelous ambassadress for the sport.
The courtly demeanor of Chris Evert and her two-handed backhand were only components of a special personality both in and out of the game.
We have a good chemistry together, I think, to bring out humorous side of things. Sometimes sometimes a little bit dirty, but fun, not vicious or anything.
I think that so many people have imitated Chris. There's so many what would be clones, except I think they've imitated the most obvious thing about her, the juniors, that is, and that's her game. And I don't think that that's her strongest point. I think that her mind is her strongest point.
She has been in the tennis for so long, and when I came up playing, I mean, she was the one who was at the top, and all those years, I mean, she always was there.
She was there 6 times as a U.S. Open champion until this final loss to Zina Garrison in the quarterfinal. But her fans and her friends will remember the victories.
You're asking me to capsule something that's been going on for 16, 17 years, and that's not possible. It's hard to do on TV. We were going to write a book about it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Indeed, Chris. Thanks for everything.
The crowd that had bid farewell to Chris Evert with a dewy-eyed standing ovation now turned its attention to the survivors, who in any other year would have been the headliners.
It was defending champion Steffi Graf against Gabriella Sabatini in the semis. In the first set, Sabatini up 2-1.
Good start for Sabatini.
It really was. She was fresh, she moved beautifully, she hit aggressively, and she mixed it up. Sabatini sent the message early that Graf had to pick up her game.
Set tied at 1-1 here in the second. Well-placed slice by Steffi down the line. Graf up at 4-3 here in the second set, serving 40-30.
12 of the 19 times these two have played, it's gone 3 sets, but Sabatini has only won 3 of those times. It seemed that Graf knew that if it would come to a battle of attrition, she was going to win. And yet Sabatini was still flying as hard as she could all over the court. But surely points like that were getting to Sabatini.
And they're even at a set apiece.
Now, we've all seen this match before. We've seen Sabatini conk out in the 3rd set. And we assumed that she was down and in real trouble physically, which was true. But what we didn't know was that Graf was in trouble as well.
That's right. She had moved into a 5-2 lead, but suddenly, afflicted by cramps, a rare thing for her. And now at match point, there was really some question whether or not she'd be able to finish it. Sabatini, knowing Graf is hurting, she saw that at courtside, hoping somehow she can make her stay out there longer. But a gutty display by Steffi Graf, even in this long rally. Now she comes to the net. And gratefully for her, it's finished, and she has moved to the final.
Zina Garrison, flying high after defeating Chris Evert, was overpowered by Martina Navratilova in the other semifinal.
He joined the action tied 1-1 in the first.
Now, these two have played a couple of dozen times, and the only time Zina was ever able to beat Martina was at the U.S. Open in the quarters last year. And Martina was nervous about this match. It showed. Billie Jean King, who's worked with Martina all year long, was telling her to relax, to be confident out there. But Martina was tight in this first set. She didn't serve well, and Zina played very boldly, very aggressively right from the start.
Even still, Zina had to come back with shots like that. She was down 4-2 and pulled it to 5-all. But she has a break point against here. And Martina made the most of it. An unhappy Zina.
Again, you must remember that she's beaten Martina here. She knew she could do it again.
So into the tiebreak. Navratilova up 1-0. But a double fault that plagued her through the set.
She had 7 double faults in this first set. Zina put so much pressure on her, and it really showed. But here, 2 key errors from Zina Garrison. She played an out ball on that volley, and Martina was all over her. This tied it, and on this next point, this I consider to be match point. Such a big moment for Martina. Bang, boldly firing away on that forehand, a shot that had been backfiring on her for that whole first set.
We move ahead to 6-4, Navratilova with a set point here in the tiebreak. And you can see the way she left the court, Mary. She was pumped. She was much more confident than when the match began. Into the second set. Widening her lead to a match point at 5-2. And a running play by Martina for the match. Afterwards, Leslie and Mary spoke to both women.
Zina, tough match. You led in the tiebreaker. How did it slip away?
I still don't yet have not found out what it takes to be a true champion. I mean, when you have someone down, you have to take advantage of them. And I'm not doing it yet.
I hadn't been in the finals since 2 years ago here, and I hadn't won a Grand Slam for a while, so I would like to do that. And you know, Zina's always a tough one to play. Most of the time when I played her, I played really well. Last year I didn't, and by the time I started playing well, it was too late. But today was tough because the first set I was having a hard time getting awake. I haven't played at 11 o'clock here since God knows when, and it was hard for me at the beginning, but once I got that first set under the belt, I felt a lot better.
So, like the Staten Island Ferry, the women were right on schedule. Number 1 against number 2. Steffi Graf against Martina Navratilova for the championship. Pat and Tony pick up the action.
Martina with a set and a break, serving at 3-2.
Grand Slam titles for Martina, 4th all time. Amazing.
That young lady keeps pounding ground strokes at her. Watch her handle this one. This was really hit hard. Just absolutely perfect.
She's doing everything she wasn't able to do enough at Wimbledon. Handle the volleys. Another great save.
Just 2 games to victory for Navratilova. But as the saying goes, it's not over till it's over. Martina would get into service trouble and let Graf back in the match. And that's all the chance she needed. Steffi soon led 5-4 in the second. Now Martina serving at 5-6, hoping to force a tiebreak and avoid a third set.
Set to Steffi Graf, 7-5.
Into the third set now, and it was all Steffi. With shots like this that had Martina applauding and the crowd chanting. Graf just got stronger and stronger as the match wore on. Steffi serving for the match and her second U.S. Open championship. So Steffi Graf had won her second U.S. Open championship and come within 1 title of her second straight Grand Slam. A hug from her father. And a second look at match point. An elated Steffi Graf and an unhappy Martina. Now to Tony Trabert at center court for the championship presentation. He's with Martina.
Thank you. I first have to say well done to Steffi. She played a really, really good match, but you know, it was really close. It was a matter of a couple of points here and there, and I'm gonna keep trying until one of these days those few points will go my way.
Martina, thank you very much. Congratulations, and we'll see you here next year.
I want to thank my friends over there for all the support, and I want to thank you fans. You have been absolutely unbelievable, and I'm going to be back here next year. Thanks.
Steffi, congratulations. If it weren't for a little Spanish gal, this would be back-to-back Grand Slams. You played marvelously.
Thank you. I'm really happy to win this match, and it's very difficult to play on the 4 major tournaments the best you can and to win every single one, but I did another 3 this year, and I think that's great for me.
And now, to present the championship trophy is the President of the United States Tennis Association and the Chairman of the U.S. Open, Mr. David Markin. David?
Thank you, Tony. Steffi, what a wonderful match. And on behalf of the more than 400,000 members of the United States Tennis Association, it gives me great pleasure to present you with this 1989 U.S. Open Championship Trophy. Congratulations.
In addition to the men's and women's national championships, several other titles are decided at the Open. Key among them are the junior championships. And as in the main draw, Americans showed great promise for the future of U.S. tennis. 13-year-old Floridian Jennifer Capriati, seeded third, beat Rachel McQuillan of Australia to win the girls' title. She's already felt the pressure to be another Chris Evert.
I don't really want to be the next Chris Evert. I mean, I like her and she's my idol, but I want to be myself, you know, Jennifer Capriati. But I can't wait till I get out on the tour, and I don't know if I'll be the next Chris Evert or Jennifer Capriati.
In the boys' championship, #1 seed Nicholas Kulti was supposed to be the next Swedish sensation, but he was upset by Jonathan Stark of Medford, Oregon, for an American sweep of the junior titles.
The U.S. Open is not just a great tennis event, it's also a great sporting event. Much of the environment out here you've probably never seen. In fact, if you buy a ticket to the matches or stay at home and watch on television, there are many places on the grounds of the U.S. Open that you wouldn't get to see at all. Well, in a segment we call Upstairs, Downstairs at the U.S. Open, we're going to show you some of them. Behind this unmarked door is a narrow corridor that leads to the very bowels of the stadium.
In a passageway near the stadium court, we find tournament director Mike Burns' office. He oversees a small army of officials, vendors, chefs, media staff, and others needed to run the Open.
Over the year, I mean, you have to put together the sponsorship packages. We have the, even doing the program, that's not easy. Stories have to be written, have to be put together. So it's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 probably when you add them, if you really added everybody up on the whole thing.
Up a short flight of stairs is the scheduling office, the only quiet place at the Open. You need quiet to schedule matches and practices on 23 courts without conflicts. From here, scheduling information and scoring updates flow into the computer center, where they're digested and fed to terminals and monitors all over the National Tennis Center.
We're the CIA of the National Tennis Center. When a ball is struck on any court in the complex, we know whether it was out or in before the people in the crowd do.
Now we're going to take an elevator ride to the very top of the stadium. So we've arrived at the press box. This is where nearly 1,000 members of the world media cover the U.S. Open from 11 in the morning until well after midnight.
From up here, you can get a view of almost the entire tennis center, all 24 acres. With tickets so hard to get, it occurred to me there must be plenty of good places to sneak in.
I was a kid and I wanted to do it. I'd dress up as a waiter, waitress, or chef and come back in through the commissary gate. And I'd say 90% chance I'd walk right in, especially if I came bright and early in the morning, like 8 or 9 o'clock. I'd be in for the day.
Well, we had to check that out, and look what we found. Here he comes across the road, gets a bag of ice, checks things out. Coast seems to be clear. Now watch this. Here goes a whole cart full of ice. But our guy just keeps on trucking right into the U.S. Open. Well, he missed the women's final, but he's just in time for the men's.
So with the women's title decided and Steffi Graf now two-time champion, the stage was set for the 1989 men's championship. In recent years, American tennis had been written off as nearly dead, but our young Americans held half the spots all the way through the men's semifinals.
Detroit's Aaron Krickstein was in overdrive going into his first Grand Slam semifinal, but the wheels came off against Boris Becker, and he was eliminated in straight sets. Andre Agassi did take a set and force a tiebreak against Ivan Lendl, but as the lights came on, so did Ivan, advancing in 4 sets and once again dealing a hard hand to the lad from Las Vegas. So just like the women's championship, the men's would feature number 1 against number 2, Ivan Lendl and Boris Becker. The first set was marked by dazzling shots from both men. Here, Lendl's laser-guided passing shot. And Boris Becker thought, I should have smelled that one coming. If you were there, you knew in the first set you were in for a long night. Every point would be played to the limit. It showed in the score. 4-all, first set. Predictably, set 1 went to a tiebreak in the 90-degree heat. Lendl serving, Becker charging for one of 17 points at the net in the first set. The second set was all Ivan Lendl, highlighted by points like this. After an hour and 45 minutes, it was tied at 1 set apiece. Night had fallen as we moved to the third set. The match now 2.5 hours old, and neither man showing signs of wear. Into the fourth set. Lendl serving at 2-all. Suddenly, a tremendous overhead from Boom Boom, and Becker seemed to take control.
Quiet, please. Thank you.
Lendl fought back, forcing a break point. another laser down the line, and Yvonne Lendl was back in the match, tied at 4-all. With the packed stadium in a frenzy, a determined Lendl served the set into a tiebreak. Now Becker serving at match point, 6-4 in the tiebreak. And Boris Becker wins his first United States Open championship. Tony Trabert was on court for the presentation.
Yvonne, congratulations. I know it's a disappointment that you didn't win, but you had a terrific tournament, and I know we'll see you again next year.
Well, Boris played well today. He served really well, and all I could do is fight as hard as I can. And as you know, I never give up, so I will be back next year.
We'll look forward to that. Thank you. Boris, congratulations. You've won 3 Wimbledons, and now you've added another Grand Slam. How's it feel to you?
Not bad right now. You know, what can I say? You know, it's probably the most, well, the best moment in my tennis life right now. And, you know, this year I've won Wimbledon and US Open, and it's just unbelievable for me.
Well, again, congratulations. And now to present the championship trophy, Mr. David Markin, the president of USTA and the chairman of the US Open. David?
Thank you, Tony. We've had 2 weeks of glorious weather, no planes today, and we've broken every attendance record in the history of the Open. Boris, it gives me great pleasure to present you with this trophy, crowning you the 1989 singles champion of the US Open.
Boris Becker, ladies and gentlemen, US Open champion 1989.
For Pat Summerall, Tony Trabert, Leslie Visser, Mary Carrillo, and the hundreds of men and women at CBS Sports and the United States Tennis Association, I'm Tim Ryan, saying goodbye from the 1989 US Open Tennis Championships. And remember, be kind, rewind.